اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Our dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God Almighty be upon you all. Welcome once again to this special program that's coming to you live from the MTA International Studios here in Qadian, India. The program is The Messiah of the Age, and this is the third day of our live broadcast coming from you here in Qadian. Qadian is the birthplace of the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who claimed to be the long-awaited Messiah, the metaphorical second coming of Jesus, son of Mary, who died after completing his successful mission in Nazareth. The Promised Messiah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, started the foundation of this very community that we are in here in Qadian, India. The programs we've been looking at the birthplace of the Promised Messiah and of course his mission. And today we have a very important subject matter to discuss here in the studio, and that is Khilafat Ahmadiyya, the spiritual leadership in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, which is worldwide. With me today I have some gentlemen here in the studio, but before introducing the ones I have in the studio for you here today, I'll remind you once again that you are also part of this program, this live interactive program. Send in your messages to the WhatsApp number on your screen, and you can also tweet, and we'll pick up those tweets and share the messages that you are sending in, your feedback and your comments, and we want to see them coming in, and I'll keep on repeating and reminding you that you can send them in, and I'll share those messages. We want to hear from you and have you, but we'll also have callers that will be part of this program as well, so it will be quite interactive. But before going into the topic we have for you, I'll introduce the gentleman that I have here in the studio with me. On my immediate left is Ustaz Abdul Rahman Cham Sahib, who's a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the Gambia, and he is here with us. Welcome, sir. Right next to him is Habib Muhammad Shafiq Jr., who comes all the way from the United States of America. He's the National Outreach Secretary of the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association in the United States of America. Welcome, sir. And the last but not the least, a very common face to most of our viewers is, of course, Maulana Azhar Hanif Sahib, who comes from the United States of America. He's the National Vice President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the United States of America, and he's also the missionary in charge. Welcome, sir. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Gentlemen, going straight into this very topic that is dear to all of us, and that is the topic of Khilafat. Khilafat is something that has been mentioned in different sources. And I'll start with you, Azhar Hanif Sahib, before going into that, the background to this very important subject matter. Could you tell us the concept of Khilafat, where it started from?
Khilafat is not a concept that is unique to Islam. In fact, the Holy Prophet Muhammad said, every single prophet is followed by a Khalifa. And this is because human beings have a limited span of life. Doesn't matter whether they're a prophet or anyone else. No prophet has been given an eternal life on this earth. In fact, I don't think anyone wants to live here forever. So once that person's lifespan ends, if someone doesn't continue this with the spiritual leadership, successorship of that mission, it will die right then and there. And it's strange to see sometimes, for instance, in the Bible, it talks about Adam having a very long life of 1,000 years. And people have been trying to force it into a physical concept that he lived in that era for 1,000 long years. But actually it's like you say in the Chinese. Chinese have what they call the Ming dynasty, M-I-N-G, Ming. And this is a very long dynasty, but Ming died well before that dynasty ended. It meant that whatever was his concepts, his philosophy, his theology, it continued in that long period and people abided by it. So the idea is that God is saying to us, we all need spiritual leadership. We need leadership in general, anything. without a CEO in a company, the company will fall apart.
Right.
Without a headmaster, the children won't get the proper education they need. Without a captain of a team, the team starts to go off track. So every group, without a father or a head of a household, again, the kids run wild. Allah is thus telling us that Khilafat as a concept is needed for the spiritual community, the spiritual family, to have unity, leadership, direction from God All High. And the first one is mentioned is Adam, and has been everyone ever since then. They have been having this concept of Khilafat amongst them.
That's indeed very important. You touched on the history of it and importance of having a head. And we all know that is very important. Otherwise, everyone goes scattered around. But of course, it comes with the responsibility. And Habib Saab, I don't know if you want to pick up on this. Who then decides who that leader is? It has to come from somewhere. The person has to be appointed, or the group have to be appointed. How do you agree on that? Who takes that responsibility of appointing that leader?
This is a very important question, and I'll try to give a very succinct 3 or 4 important steps to answer this question. The first one is the Khalifatul Masih is the successor of the promised Messiah, and he is elected to office by a voting process. Now, this process takes place with members of an electoral college, which was established during the second Caliphate of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, the second, may Allah be pleased with him. Now, during the life of the Khalifa, this electoral college works under the supervision of the Khalifa. However, upon the demise of the Khalifa, this electoral college then works independently to elect, as it were, the next Khalifa. Now, during the election conclave of the Khalifa, Imam Diba Saab, names are properly moved and seconded by members of this selected electoral college, and then they vote on the proposed names by a show of raising their hands. Now, as Ahmadi Muslims, we firmly believe that it is Allah who selects this Khalifa, as he did in the time of the Khalifa Rashidun. Whenever the election of the Khalifa occurs, the hearts and minds of the electors are all turned towards this same person. And this is an extraordinary thing that a lot of our viewers may not understand. However, in concluding, this spiritual synergy, it concludes very intricately in an election of a new Khalifa of the time. Now, this last point is extraordinarily important, that this divinely appointed process of spiritual succession, it further increases the Ahmadiyya Jama'at's collective faith. It refreshes us and puts into sharp focus Allah Ta'ala's promise to us regarding leadership, unity, peace, security, that only the Khalifa is duly appointed vicegerent, as it were, for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community worldwide. Now, the last point, which is extraordinarily important. When a Khalifa has been elected, every man, woman, boy, girl of the community must render complete and utter obedience and accept him.
I think that's very important there. You know, what you mentioned, that God Almighty is the one, according to our belief, is the one that appoints.
Yes.
So the back, Chamsab, if you want to touch on that, how does God Almighty, if people are the ones making that election, and God Almighty is the one that appoints this person, could you clarify that? Where do we get that source from?
Very good. Khilafat is a subject that's mentioned in various parts of the Holy Quran. Okay. But when you come to the election itself, for example, I met some people who were a part of that electoral college or electoral body, and they will testify to you that when a person's name is mentioned, who is to become a Khalifa of a time, you know, some people testify that their hands just went up. They didn't even know how. Right. So this shows that there's a power that's behind everybody in that, electoral college. Right.
So what about the mention of Khilafat in the Holy Quran? Is there any mention of it?
Yeah.
The concept of Khilafat?
Yeah, in various parts of the Holy Quran, the subject of Khilafat is mentioned. For example, Allah Almighty, told Hazrat Adam that he's going to appoint him as a Khalifa.
Right.
Then Hazrat Dawood also was called the Khalifa of God Almighty. And what the main verse whereby Khilafat is mentioned,
Right.
that we base the Khilafat Ahmadiyya on is in chapter 24, that's Surah Nur, verse 56.
Right.
When Allah promised to the believers who do good deeds, who believe and do good deeds, that He will establish for them, or He'll make them Khilafat as He made Khilafat before.
So God Almighty, He's saying Himself. That He will make the Khalifa.
Yeah, this is a promise from Allah Almighty.
Okay.
And interestingly, after the demise of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, when Muslims were afraid, when Muslims became fearful and thought that, okay, our leader is gone, like Imam Sahib rightly said, without no leader, there's no direction. So the Muslims were afraid, what is going to happen to us now?
Right.
And the disbelievers, that's the enemies, the opponents of Islam, were rejoicing, they were happy that now the Holy Prophet is gone, Islam, this is the end. And Allah Almighty appointed, as He promised in the Holy Quran, He appointed Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu as the Khalifa of the Muslims. And through that Khilafat, Islam expanded, Islam grew, you know, and reached, you know, countries or places whereby without Khilafat this will never be possible. And interestingly also, after the demise of the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam,
Right.
Allah again fulfilled His promise
Right.
to the believers, that is the members of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at. When the promises are passed away, you know, members of the Jama'at were confused, they were afraid, they were scared, they were fearful that Muslim world is gone now.
Exactly the same thing.
Exactly
that
the same
after
thing,
the
yeah.
demise of the
So
Holy
alhamdulillah, with the election of Hazrat Maulvi Hakim Nurdin radiallahu anhu, that, you know, Khilafat as promised by God Almighty in the Holy Quran was fulfilled and established.
Just to touch on this, Azhar Anif Sahib, I'll have to come back to you here. An interesting comment that the enemies of Ahmadiyya made at that point when God Almighty, now he mentioned about the election that happens, but even before the electoral body, he said it came after during the time of the second Khalifa, he introduced the electoral body. But before that, the enemies made a comment that the new leader of the Ahmadi Muslims after the demise of the promised Messiah is someone who only knows the Holy Quran. Yes. So of course they're doomed to fail. Could you throw some light on that?
Yes. See, the idea is that Prophet Messiah alayhi salam, the founder of Jama'at, he said that the enemies of God and Islam have two joys. The one joy, the two hopes. The one hope is that during the time of the Prophet, he'll fail. That was completely futile as a hope, because throughout their life, all their expectations were the ones that were failing. And Jama'at continued to advance and progress and move forward. Now their second hope was, as it was mentioned, that upon his demise, either the community would be so disrupted, no one would come forward and lead them, or the leader would be weak. So this was a way of trying to point out that the new leader hasn't the same quality of leadership as the founder. So he's also going to be a failure. Yes. And because all he knows is the Holy Quran. But Allah Almighty has said the Quran is everything for a Muslim. For a Muslim, the Holy Prophet Muhammad says, "Innama ana basharun mislakum." I am only a man like you. So what distinguishes me over anyone else? Yuha ilayya, that God has revealed to me this holy word. That was who the Holy Prophet Muhammad was. His own wife said, and asked the question, who is Prophet Muhammad? She said, "Khulquhul Quran." To see him is as if you're seeing the Holy Quran personified. So to someone to say, any of us, oh, all you know is Quran, I'll be, alhamdulillah, thank you. That's a mark that I'm truly following Prophet Muhammad and I'm his representative now, because this should be one of the qualities, as he's mentioned, prayer and righteousness. And what is more righteous than the one who has his heart and soul in Quran? This was the first Khalifa, and we are so blessed because of that.
And indeed, we saw how God Almighty supported him, and the appointment, the success of that person tells us that, of course, the appointment of God Almighty was with him. As we told you, our dear viewers, you can send in your tweets at MTA Africa. That's the Twitter handle. Please keep them coming in, and of course, your messages as well. And I'll read just a couple of messages that we've received so far. There's many of them. We've received a message from Faustin, who's from Jamaica. He says, "We are grateful to Allah for being part of this historic live series from Qadian. As we bring down the curtains on these series, we pray that the world recognizes and accepts the truth of Imam Mahdi, and Allah saves the world from a catastrophic end. Ameen." We have another one from Haji Nasir from Kenya. "I take this opportunity to appreciate the program It's such an amazing program that sleeping moods here in Kenya has gone despite its time to sleep. Wow, that's indeed beautiful. We have another message. It says, Assalamu alaikum to all members of Jama'at Ahmadiyya worldwide. With this live program, the Messiah of the Age from Qadian, and being watched worldwide, Ahmadis now looking towards Qadian via MTA. Another grand prophecy is fulfilled, and that a lot of people will come to Qadian to meet the Promised ﷺ, and many more of those messages. So please keep your messages coming in, and tweeting, of course, to MTA Africa, that's Muslim TV Africa, that's our MTA handle, and we'll keep sharing those messages with you. Just after this, we will show you now a small piece that we have put together for our viewers to enjoy, and it's the expansion of the Jama'at. This is a piece that we've put together, and we hope you enjoy watching it. But immediately after that, we'll come back into the studio and we'll continue this very vibrant discussion about Khilafat Ahmadiyya that is happening right here.
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح.
The Ahmadiyya community was only named so in 1900. However, it was founded in 1889, a time when the community was known to only a handful of people, and the village of Qadian itself would not be found on any map. So how did this humble community, which started from an unknown town, expand to the corners of the world, and how did it lay the foundations of this success?
तुझ पे कट मरने को है तैयार तेरे पासबां है लिवाए अहमदियत.
After the demise of the promised Messiah, who left behind a treasure of knowledge in the form of Ruhani Khazain, a compilation of his books in which he portrayed Islam in its true form, and through his commentaries of the Holy Quran, Khilafat and the divine decree was manifested, and thus the future of the Jama'at was established, with its roots firmly in the ground and its branches elevated in the sky. In the time of the second Caliph, Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad radiallahu anhu, the community was forced to migrate from Qadian under divine decree. The stigma of migration. Upon this very revelation, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu, under divine instruction by Allah Almighty, decided to move the headquarters to a place called Qadian. When the opponents found out about this plan, they all vowed to collectively destroy the Jama'at and not even leave a brick standing. They scorned and mocked at the Caliph of Allah because his chosen land was barren, without water, and incapable of supporting life. However, today we can see that this place, once known as Qadian, is now laden with fruits, rivers, and civilizations. Today, this land is now known as Rabwa. Those opponents who ridiculed the Jama'at are nowhere to be seen today, and those who followed the Messiah are now prevalent all across the world. Under the divine scheme of Tahrik Jadid, Muslim Ma'ud radiallahu anhu sent missionaries bearing the message of the Messiah to countries worldwide. Through their commitment and sacrifices, the Jama'at prospered and spread over the entire world. With the expansion of the Jama'at came about the expansion of mosques, schools, and hospitals all over the world, available to people from all walks of life. Today, it is this very caliphate which has driven the community forward, and now it has spread its branches into 210 nations, hosting 16,000 mosques, 56 hospitals and clinics, 700 schools, and it has now translated the Quran into 75 languages. All these achievements and milestones would not be achievable without the divine hand of Khilafat, which has been manifested by Allah Almighty Himself in this age.
मुश्किलें इस राह की मुझ पर अगरचे हैं अयां
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح.
Welcome back, our dear viewers. I hope you have enjoyed that small piece that we've put together for you. And as I said, I'll remind you again, keep sending the message in through the WhatsApp number on your screen and through Twitter as well. We're receiving more messages that I want to share with you, our viewers. One of our viewers says, my name is Arosha Mariam from Sierra Leone, and I am watching this program with my family. May Allah bless the Ahmadiyya Jama'at worldwide. Thank you, Sister Mariam. Another message from Aliu Abdul Rashid from Nigeria. I would like to share my joy with fellow Ahmadi members, using this opportunity to pray for our Khalifa. May Allah be his helper. Ameen. As well as congratulating Ghanaian members on their Jalsa Salana. So Jama'at Ahmadiyya Ghana is having the annual convention. Congratulations to them. And he's sending his greetings as well to members of the panel and all members of the MTA crew for the job well done. Thank you very much. Sister Aziza Tahira from Uganda says, Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah, thank you for the wonderful program. Long live Jama'at Ahmadiyya. Thank you very much, Sister Aziza. A tweet from Hafiz Kisawe. He says, Jazakallah for the wonderful program. May Allah bless you. May Allah bless you too, Hafiz Sab. We're watching from the Gambia. This is a very beautiful program and we are learning new things from it. May Allah bless you all. Thank you for that message. We have another one. We have watched all 3 episodes of this series and have enjoyed and learned a lot. The videos about Qadian are very inspiring, and the viewer says he prays that we will all get the opportunity to visit this holy place. I mean, thanks for bringing the beauty of Qadian, the promised Messiah, and Khilafat in our living rooms. So that's Naila Abbasi from Aldershot in UK. Talking about Khilafat, and that brings us right back into the conversation. And Chamsab, I'll start with you. So when God Almighty talks about Khilafat in the Holy Quran, as you've mentioned just before we went for that break, there must be some qualities of that Khilafat that will tell us what the true Khilafat is, some attributes. Could you throw some light on those, please?
Thank you very much. When we look at in the Holy Quran in chapter 24, verse 56, Allah, clearly mentioned the attributes of what true Khilafat is all about. And first of all, Allah said, like we mentioned before, that He will establish Khilafat for people who believe and do good deeds. But the qualities or attributes of these of true Khilafat is that, after establishing the religion for the believers, that is true Khilafat, Allah will in turn, change their fear into peace and security. And also they will worship only Allah. So, how do we analyze this? For example, after a prophet passed away, for example, the Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, or when the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasallam passed away, the enemies, the disbelievers, the opponents, they rejoiced that, okay, this is the end of Islam during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah said, no, I will appoint, a Khalifa who will, in that way He established for them their religion, that is Islam. And when you come to the time of the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasallam also, when he passed away, the enemies or opponents said that, okay, this is the end of Islam. It's not about the end of Ahmadiyya. If it goes off, by that time in those days, you understand, the Christians, the Aryas, many people were fighting Islam, and the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasallam was the one in defense. And when he passed away, they rejoiced and said, no, now this is the end of it. But Allah Almighty said, no, I will establish this religion, that is Islam, through Khilafat. That's why up to today we see that Islam, the true message of Islam, is being spread to different parts of the world. And Allah said the fear of the believers is that Khalifa that is appointed, is he turning the fear of the believers into peace and security? If that is done, then we know that that is true. And for example, today is the Khilafah that we are witnessing. Hazur, our beloved Khalifa, is always admonishing us to worship God. You know, whenever we are, even personally, not just only me or you, any Ahmadi who has a problem, he goes to Hazur. Hazur will turn that fear of that person into peace and security. Right. Not just only Ahmadis, even non-Ahmadis would, you know, they will testify to this, that we hear a lot of things about Islam. We are afraid of Islam. But the moment we hear the Khalifa speak, it's just like our perspective, our thought, what we think of Islam all changes to a new thing, that the fear is gone. So the Khalifa is actually fulfilling that. And then also Allah said that they will worship only me. And Hazur, whenever he speaks, whether the present Khalifa, all the Khulafa of Jama'at, all the Khulafa Rashidin, they always admonish believers to worship the only one God. Right. Every Friday, someone almost, when Hazur stood in front of us, he is telling us that we should worship God and we should not associate any partner with God. So, and the last point that I want to say here is the Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that the true Khilafah that will come after him will be on the precept of prophethood. Right. So today, the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam. So, you know, today I was working in, where the second manifestation happened. I was reading, and Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam said that the second manifestation cannot come unless he's gone. Right. And he said this will be with you for the rest of the ages. And how can he confidently, you know, just say this without any divine intervention or divine revelation from God? Alhamdulillah, that is established on the precept of prophethood, that Khilafat Ahmadiyya.
That's, the verse that you quoted, chapter 24, verse 56, which clearly mentioned these attributes of a true Khalifa. Imam Azhar Hanif Sahib, I'll come to you here. 1908 was when the promised Messiah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, passed away. From 1908 up to 2017. The Holy Quran tells us clearly, these are the attributes of a true Khalifa. How has that been manifested from 1908 to today in Ahmadiyya?
Well, appreciating the comments of Ustaz Cham, we see that from 1908 up to now, 2017, there's one Muslim group in the world that has always had the advantage of spiritual focus. And this is what the Prophet brings to us. As we mentioned in yesterday's program, what is the whole purpose of this coming of the Messiah? The Messiah was to come to revive faith that was going to die. And at the demise of the Prophet, again, there's a hope of some that that'll be the end of that ministry, and whatever he achieves is going to end. In this case, our faith would have also declined. But by Allah's grace, this faith is spreading. In this program today, just the message you're getting from around the world, all over the African continent in the world, shows that faith is not only surviving, it's thriving. Right. It's spreading. It's influencing and affecting more and more hearts. One of the beautiful verses of the Quran that talks about Khilafat is in Surah Ali Imran. And it commands us, in fact, وَأَتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Hold fast to the rope of God. Jamia, all together. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and do not let anything divide you. This is the beauty of Jama'at Ahmadiyya. There is no division from the spiritual head to the last person. All are uniform, all are united behind the voice of the Khalifa. If he were to say today to us, any in the world, and he addresses us every single Friday from London, whatever command he gives us, it goes to the entire body, and no one is questioning or wondering. It's like when the Holy Prophet Muhammad said to break the vessels of wine, they began breaking right then and then. They didn't question the order, they began following the order. So the beauty of that is it creates unity and uniformity and gives us spiritual focus, not political, not economic, not national, not racial, not cultural, not lingual. None of those things now matter. It's only spiritual quality. And that unites us, because without that, see, we will be talking again about Africa and Asia and American amities, or talking about, the rich and the poor and this and that. All those issues will come in. Right. By Allah's grace, the manifestation of Khilafat is, it brings us back to our spiritual base. It focuses every aspect of our organization and our efforts on the spiritual goal of life, which is to get closer to our Creator. And in so doing, closer to one another. Yes. And that we found, alhamdulillah. Where else do you find in the Muslim world such a harmony amongst the Muslims? You go to the mosque sometimes and you pain to see that in the mosque it's again lingual and cultural and regional things going on, where it should be universal. Yes. So this was the miracle of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and we are again so fortunate. We don't recognize it sometimes. Yeah. What we have been gifted in terms of Khilafat, to make us love not just God but love each other and work together, and humanity, the last thing I would say, the idea of service of humanity under the Khilafat. All the petrodollars and all of the gold and the diamonds that these Muslims are collecting, what have they done in the world with it? Forget the rest of the world, the Muslim world. They could solve the issues in so many poor, suffering nations. The refugee crisis of Syrians, the Somalia, Sudanese issues. Right there in Africa, so much wealth we have, but without the lack of Khilafat. And this is exactly what Hazrat Uthman, the third Caliph of Islam, said when they came to assassinate him. They said, if you succeed today, I warn you, after this you will never be united, you will never stand together in prayer, and you will never have the power to face your common enemy. Is that not the history of Islam since that time? But is that the history of Jama'at Ahmadiyya? All of our enemies have failed because we are united. All of us are united in prayer because we're behind one Imam. And all of us have that unity and love of God because of the teachings of Jama'at. Alhamdulillah.
That's very clearly mentioned. And Habib Saab, coming to you, I mean, this Jama'at, it's a movement, the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam. Yes. We are not here to, get stagnant at one point and look at each other.
Not at all.
It's a progress.
Absolutely.
But this progress, the key there is our leadership.
Yes.
What role has it played in terms of the expansion of the Jama'at on the Khilafat?
Extraordinary question. Thank you very much. The promised Messiah came and Allah spoke to him. And one of the things that Allah spoke to him and said, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, I am with you, I love you, and I will cause thy message to reach the corners of the earth. Now, upon the demise of the promised Messiah, alayhi salam, the detractors and enemies of the Jama'at thought that it was finished. Then Allah initialized the second manifestation, and there was the election of Hazrat Nuruddin, our first Khalifa. While he was an older, saintly, marvelous individual, he stabilized the Jama'at to let them know that the promise of Allah was true. God spoke to this Messiah, and his message will reach the corners of the earth. Then came the demise of the first Khalifa, and the second Khalifa came, who was not only just the second Khalifa in Ahmadiyyat, but also the promised son, and he would have these extraordinary attributes, 51 or so in this prophecy. One of those extraordinary attributes of his was his ability to be able to organize in his leadership. So under his leadership and divine inspiration from Allah Ta'ala, he began to put into motion a set of extraordinary organizational and departmental aspects that begin to expand Jama'at Ahmadiyya. Now, upon as this Jama'at expanded, upon his demise was our continued promise. The third Khalifa came. The third Khalifa came, and in doing his administration, he took that expansion, consolidated it, and said to this Jama'at, you are a Jama'at of love for all, hatred for none. And he did an important thing. He went and he knocked on the door of the continent of Africa. Upon the demise of the third Khalifa, now comes the fourth Khalifa. The fourth Khalifa with his brilliance and intelligence prior to becoming the Khalifa, he began to continue this expansion, and with one extraordinary thing that he collected from the promised Messiah's prophecy, I shall cause thy message, and that is the initiation of MTA, which we are utilizing here today. Also, this fourth Khalifa said to the world, look here, this is a message of peace. And Islam, there's no such thing as murder in the name of Allah. And also under his caliphate, we saw how Allah showed that he was with this Khalifa and began to vanquish certain specific enemies by name. Then came the fifth Khalifa. And the extraordinary thing of the fifth Khalifa that I'm just so humbled and awed by is this fifth Khalifa has taken all of this progress and leadership and provided sound leadership at a time when saber rattling and swords and atomic talk is just bantered around like nothing. And so, for an example, when Hazrat Khalifatul Masih comments, when he came to the United States, he came to Washington, D.C., he did not come for coffee and Danish. He came for one reason and one reason only, that he was Allah's Khalifa and he came to speak truth to power. And for him, this power seat was in Washington, D.C. He didn't come to collect a plaque or this or that. And he lovingly, but very firmly and concisely, he spoke truth to power and said to those leaders who would dare listen, look, if you do not turn and begin to show, if you do not turn from this path, you're headed towards destruction.
Which is a very clear warning that
Absolutely.
He did. Just to pick up from there, we have a caller on the line. Dr. Sir Iftikhar Ayaz Sahib, who is very, very familiar with this subject matter that he just touched on, and that is the admonitions of the Hazrat Khalifatul Masih to the leaders of the world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sir Dr. Iftikhar Ayaz Sahib, are you with us?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Allah bless you. Jazakallah.
And in a timely manner, to go straight into the question that I have for you tonight, what has been the message of His Holiness, the Supreme Head of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim community, to different leaders of the world? Could you throw some light on that?
Oh, well, definitely. As your audience, your listeners will know, His Holiness Mirza Masroor Ahmad is the fifth successor of the reformer of this age, the promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be upon him. And he has taken on him to defend Islam against all the false allegations made about Islam, that Islam is a violent religion and it has created terrorists in the world. So he has taken on him to travel around the world, and he has been to all the regions of the world to take this message of peace of Islam. The Ahmadiyya community is the community which has taken on to present Islam in practice, the true, pristine, pure teachings of Islam throughout the world in practice. And it is showing to the world that Islam is truly a religion of peace. And His Holiness has taken this message to the top leaders of the world. He has been to so many countries in Africa. He has met the presidents of so many countries in Africa. He has addressed the parliaments, and he has also traveled far and wide to the various regions of the world. He has addressed the congressmen and the senators in the American Washington parliaments. He has been to the European Union Parliament to address the parliamentarians of the whole of Europe. He has been to Australia, he has been to New Zealand, he has been to Fiji, he has been to Japan. You name the countries, anywhere in the world, any major country. And his message has been that first and foremost, it is very important for humanity that they should recognize their Creator. They should link up with their Creator. This is very important because peace comes from the Creator. It is not a business of the politicians. It is not a business of the people, who claim that they can bring peace to the world. So His Holiness has first and foremost said that link up with the Creator, whatever your faith, whatever your religion, and believe and understand that Islam does not believe in violence at all. Islam brought a prophet, the founder of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, who was a mercy from humanity, who was a mercy for humanity. And all Muslims have to be a mercy for all humanity.
Dr. Saab, just a follow-up question on this, Dr. Saab. We know that His Holiness has indeed traveled to many countries and of course addressed them. That's his role and responsibility, which he is doing, absolutely. How have these world leaders taken this message in terms of, have they taken any heed? Have they been listening to him? Have they been applying it in any way, to your knowledge?
Well, actually, you see that there is a gradual change. There is more awareness of Islam being a peaceful religion. And people are now rejecting the false allegation that Islam brought violence to the world and Islam brought fundamentalism and extremism and terrorism to the world. People are now understanding, and they are very much relying on the message of His Holiness, the successor, the Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. His message, they are understanding it. And they are also recognizing that link with the Creator is very important. Yes. And also following the code of conduct that the Creator has provided for humanity to live in peace is also very important. Absolutely. And one of those fundamentals they are realizing.
Dr. Saab, absolutely. Very, very important messages that the His Holiness has been given to leaders of the world. And as you've said, the wise ones are listening. We also have the national president of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the Gambia, Maulana Baba F. Traore Sahib, who is also with us. Assalamu alaikum, Amir Saab, are you with us?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.
How are you, Amir Saab, and how are you in the Gambia?
Alhamdulillah, everything is fine. Alhamdulillah, after witnessing this great Jalsa Salana.
MashaAllah. Just have a couple of questions for you. We're talking about Khilafat of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. In terms of your country, the Gambia, how has this true Khilafat helped to shape and change the lives of different people in your country? What contributions has it brought for a country like the Gambia in Africa?
We are very much thankful to Allah Almighty that we have witnessed and watched this successful Qadian Jalsa Salana 2017. What made this Jalsa Salana more blessed and successful is the concluding address of His Holiness Asar Khalifat Masih V. May Allah Almighty strengthen and be His helper, which inspired, enlightened, and captivated the heart. The address was on the lofty status of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, depicting the highest status of our Master, and the timing was really suitable and appropriate. More than 40, 50 years ago in the Gambia, some people said we don't mention the name of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we have our own Holy Quran. By the grace of Allah Almighty, the blessed institution of Khilafat Ahmadiyya has really shaped the lives of the Gambians spiritually, morally, and physically. It was in late 1950s and 1960s, missionaries came to this country through Tariq Jadid. Our missionaries throughout the country started preaching the true teachings of Islam. And this was one of the reasons the young people and few elders fought tooth and nail for Ahmadiyya to come to the Gambia. And before coming, you have different traditions, customs, and other practices. Through the efforts of our missionaries, alhamdulillah, things have been improving spiritually and all aspects. For example, Friday sermons. 40 years, 50 years ago, they are not translated, they are not interpreted. It's a taboo. The Jama'at introduced that. Put your hands on your chest during prayers. If they see you doing that, they will say you are Ahmad. They will drive you from the mosque. That has changed. Every imam today is delivering his sermon in local language, which people will understand.
Indeed, that has
When
helped
you go around,
to educate people. That has indeed helped to educate people who are not even Ahmadis and are benefiting from the blessings of the Khalifa sending, of course, his representatives in terms of missionaries. And of course, in teachers and medical health practitioners in countries like the Gambia and other African countries too. In terms of the leadership, how has, Khilafat, that is worldwide, of course, and worldly leadership in your country, for example, how do you see the difference between these two? Even though there's leadership in that country, but of course, the wings of Khilafat has been extended to your country. Could you throw some light on that?
As you rightly said, people benefited through our schools. Nusrat High School, built in 1971, had facilities, but it does not end there. The institution of Khilafat cannot be compared to any other worldly leadership, because the institution is divinely established here, where the institution has no personal interest, hidden interest, like the worldly leaders. The institution is a united body, helping every member of the Jama'at, the community, and humanity at large, taking the interest of everybody as his own, the pain of everybody in the Jama'at or outside as his own.
Indeed, Amir Saab, thank you very much for enlightening us about the contributions of Islam Ahmadiyya through the leadership of Khilafat in your country and many other countries around the world, indeed. And as I've promised you, our viewers, please keep sending in your messages and your tweets, and I'll read out some that I have here. One of our viewers says, message from Mutasim Billah, and is from Germany, who says, we have been enjoying the excellent, thought-provoking discussion from esteemed panel. So panelists, they are thanking you for that. And please convey our salam and good wishes to all, especially the panel members. I've just done that. Greetings and heartfelt appreciation for the informative show. This is a message from Ryan Alom, from Cape Town in South Africa. A corner of the earth, indeed, and a fulfillment of a prophecy of the promised Messiah. And a message from Suleiman from Uganda. He would like to thank all of us for this very educative program, and we truly appreciate that. Thank you very much, Lukman. Now, the Khalifa, of course, is playing this big role in terms of advising the world leaders, admonishing them, and calling them back to their creator. But the Khalifa also has a role in terms of leading the members of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. We have another caller on the line, that's Sister Alia Latif from the United States of America. Sister Alia, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. We talked about this great role that the Khalifa has, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, who is the supreme head of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim community, in terms of addressing the leaders of the world and individuals. Could you tell us more about his relationship with Ahmadi Muslims around the world? How does he relate to them? Could you throw some light on that, please?
Absolutely. I'm here in Brooklyn, New York, and across the ocean from where Hazur resides. However, the beauty of Ahmadiyya is that we all have an opportunity to have a personal relationship with our Khalifa. This capacity Allah has given him to know and to remember, to understand, to give individual attention and love to each Ahmadi who comes to meet him, to the Ahmadis who write him, is something that is a divine gift. And I make an effort to try to come to UK Jalsa, but even without being able to come, there's so many opportunities to foster relationships right from your home. So for me personally, the diaries that his press secretary, Abid Khan, writes and releases, they're published online. They're such beautiful insights to get to know more about Huzur, to get to learn more about our Jama'at, to understand his perspective on different issues, beautiful speeches he's given, prayers he recommends. These are all ways that you can make Huzur a day-to-day part of your life.
And on a personal level, in terms of our responsibilities as Ahmadi Muslims, how do we, from your personal perspective, of course, how do you keep that relationship with your Khalifa, even though you're living across the pond in the United States of America and he lives in London? How do you keep that relationship alive?
Well, I make an effort each year to try to travel there and be in his company, but additionally, I write to him often. And I write in response to these diaries that I'm talking about. I write long responses. And the beauty is when you respond to these diaries, Abid Khan, his secretary, shares feedback that he receives from around the world. So it's gotten to a point where now, just hearing my responses, hearing something that I've said, Huzur will ask, how is Amy doing? How is she feeling? He'll check his feed. I haven't heard from her in a while. I haven't read a response from her. And he'll have, he'll be concerned and interested to know how I'm doing way over here in America. So that kind of relationship is open to anyone. You simply log onto your computer, read a diary, and write a response. The email's right there to reach his press secretary.
Alhamdulillah, absolutely. That is a relationship that the Khalifa has with almost all Ahmadis around the world who make that effort to reach out to the Khalifa of the time. And for this as well, we will show you a short piece about how Khilafat is extending all around the world. Please enjoy that and then come back and have this with us in the studio.
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح.
Even I didn't know when I was elected, then my name even will be proposed. The election is the same as the Pope is elected.
When caliphate exists on the precepts of justice, consideration for the rights of others, and an overall deep will for peace, as defined by the Quran and the Holy Prophet himself, then caliphate has the ability to serve as a grand force for good in the world. He is known by world leaders for his humanitarian efforts and his mission for world peace, anchored by his famous slogan of love for all, hatred for none. He has traveled extensively to spread the message of peace and to remind everyone to respect the rights of other human beings. During his tours, His Holiness has met with world leaders from the Far East to Europe, from North America to Africa, discussing the economic, social, and political problems facing the world today, and how to create peace and justice in the world. He has also met religious and community leaders in order to share common values and core ideals universal to all religions and cultures, with a view to improving the moral state of mankind and creating an atmosphere of love and affection. From young to old, he compassionately listens to the ordinary man, regardless of race, color, or religion. He's personally initiated social projects and schemes to alleviate poverty and human suffering. His concern is not just about the well-being and moral state of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, but of great human suffering of mankind at large. Today, this man, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, is the Caliph of Ahmadiyyat, the true Islam. And his followers number in the tens of millions, spread over 200 countries in the world, making him the leader of the largest single Muslim group in the world, who follow one Imam. The Caliphs of Ahmadiyya have toured the world to meet their beloved members, and their tours have attracted many more seekers of truth around the world, just as radiant light attracts the creations of Allah Almighty. With the introduction of MTA in the era of the fourth Caliph, Hazrat Mirza Tahrir Ahmad, Rahimullah, the Jama'at found new means to spread the message of Islam to the corners of the world. Today, there is MTA 1, MTA Europe, MTA Arabia, and MTA Africa, which has proved to be a vital force for the expansion of the Jama'at. The promised Messiah alayhi salam states, "O mankind, hearken, this is the prophecy of God, who made the heavens and the earth. He will spread this movement in all countries and will give it supremacy over all through reason and argument. I came only to sow the seed. That seed has now been sown by my hand. It will now grow and blossom forth, and none dare impede its growth."
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح.
Welcome back, our dear viewers. We're continuing with the topic of Khilafat in Ahmadiyyat and the supreme head of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim community presently, and that is Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, and some of the things that he's doing to contribute to peace in the world. Habib Sahib, I'll come to you again as we were talking about some of the travels of His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad. Could you highlight some of the subjects that he's been addressing in his different tours, and how he's been waking us up with regards to the global condition of the world right now?
This is a very significant point you raise, Imam Saab. I will try to address this in just two really quick points. One is external and the other is internal. On the external side, His Holiness Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, may Allah give him long life, has wrote very, very powerful epistles, letters to world leaders. Specifically, he has visited world capitals and parliaments to try to get them to look at the broad global issue of conflict and war, and to try to incite them to come together towards international interfaith harmony. The second point is internal. Our beloved Imam is constantly reminding us for self-reformation, self-reflection, and for us in this time to walk the walk of the Messiah and Mahdi, and truly be worthy of being companions of this Imam of this age.
So, the condition of the world today, very critical, and the role of the Khalifa.
If we are going to have any hope at this time, ask yourself this one simple question. Where do you see that hope? Is it the institutions that have been formed by man? The United Nations, League of Nations, all these organizations around the world, whether it's in Africa or any other continent. None of them seem to have the solution and answers, because it is only God Almighty who's established the principles where man can live in peace and harmony, and this is Khilafat. It is so critical now. He's like the Noah of the age, calling you to get on board this vessel. Without being on board, it's going to be a deluge that's going to destroy us. So it's so critical now, and we only hope and pray. And in 2008, I was there in Africa, by Allah's grace, in Ghana, when the Khalifa came to launch the next century of Khilafat. And I believe the signal here was that it's in this continent as well, the audience that is really being directed toward in this program. This is where the new future has to come from. We should rise up and join en masse this whole movement of saving mankind, starting right in Mother Africa.
Absolutely. And Noah's Ark thought he was saved by being on the mountain. Jama'at, what's been the response of the global leaders to this message?
Alhamdulillah, when Hazur wrote letters to world leaders, or wherever he goes and address, people really acknowledge the message that Hazur is trying to put across. And many leaders obviously responded to Hazur. And also, you know, whenever they meet Hazur, I'll just bring an example of the Minister of Agriculture from the Gambia. When he met Hazur, you know, he was very happy how Hazur spoke to him, and he responded well by telling Hazur that I'm going to take your message back home to the president.
That is what, that is what a wise leader does, and listening to this, and that's what the wise leaders at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. They respected the letters, and God Almighty respected them. But for those that disrespected it, God Almighty showed them that you should not disrespect my chosen servants. Dear viewers, we're sure you enjoyed this program, this series of programs that came to you from our MTA International Studios here in Qadian, the birthplace of the Promised ﷺ. We appreciate your messages that have been coming in. I say thank you to our panelists here, and from our MTA International team here in Qadian, we say a very warm Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to you. May the peace and blessings of God Almighty be upon you all.
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح جاء المسيح اسمعوا صوت السماء